Alright, in this tutorial I'm going to look at some past paper questions, both from the Standard Grade Credit Exam and National 5, and just different examples of solving equations and inequations. So this first one here is from the 2006 paper 1. I'm just going to write it out on my own piece of paper. X minus 2, x plus 1 equals 8. So I can have a save. So if you're solving an equation and it's got a bracket in it, you're just going to have to get rid of that bracket first. So x minus, multiplying out that bracket, we've got x minus 2x and then minus 2 equals 8. So simplifying this at this side, x minus 2x is just minus x. We've still got the minus 2 equals 8. So here we can add 2 to both sides. We're just balancing out so that we get x by itself. Now we have minus x equals 10. Divide both sides by -1 so that you've got a positive, or multiply each side by -1. You're going to have, flipping it round, x equals -10. So that's one type of equation that you might have. We're going to look at one using an inequality now. So this here is from the 2015 National 5 paper. So I'm going to copy it out here. So we've got 11 minus 2 brackets 1 plus 3x is less than 39. So this time we've got an inequality. We solve it exactly the same way we would solve one with an equals sign, but just know if you start with an inequality, you must end with an inequality. Never change this to equals. So the first thing we're going to do here again is multiply out this bracket. 11 minus 2 minus 6x is less than 39. Just tidying up that 11 minus 2, that's 9 minus 6x is less than 39. So we want x by itself, so we're just going to balance this out. We're going to take the 9 away from both sides. So we'll take 9 away from both sides of the inequality. On the left-hand side here, 9 take away 9, you're left with the negative 6x is less than 39 take away 9 is 30. So to get x by itself here, right now it's being multiplied by -6. So we have to divide by -6. We have to divide by -6 on both sides. I've just written it as a fraction. Now this is the one thing you need to remember when you're solving something with an inequality. If you divide by a negative number or multiply by a negative number, this inequality sign flips around the other way. So -6x divided by -6, you end up with just x. We've divided by a negative number, so it changes to greater than, and 30 divided by -6 is -5. And that's your final answer. Just notice I started with an inequality, I finished with an inequality. Just don't be tempted to change it to an equals as a final answer. It still has to be a range, an inequality. Right, we're going to look at another type of inequality. Or another type of inequality or equation that we might find is one with a fraction in it. It's taken from the 2007 paper. So x over 4 minus a half is less than 5. So a little bit like with brackets, if you've got an equation or an inequation with a fraction in it, you just want to get rid of that fraction. So this has been divided by 4. I want to get rid of this, so I'm going to multiply each term here by 4. So if I multiply this by 4, that's going to be 4x. I'm just doing the new bit in red. Multiply this by 4. It's going to become 4 over 2. And then this 5, I'm going to multiply by 4. I'm going to write that on the next one. So you can see that we've got 4x divided by 4. That's just x. Minus 4 divided by 2, just 2, is less than 20. And now you've only got one more thing to do. Add 2 to both sides. X is less than 22. So if you've got a fraction, you just want to multiply it out so that you get rid of it. If it's a divide by 4, multiply everything by 4, and then you'll get it as an equation or inequation that you can quite easily solve. Last type of one that I want to look at is an equation here where we've got solve the equation 2x squared plus 7x minus 15 equals 0. So I'm just going to write this down. 7x minus 15 equals 0. So this is a little bit different here. Before, we only had one type of x term. We didn't have an x squared and an x. We just had all x's, and we were able to move everything over to the right hand side to solve it. If you have an x squared term, so we've got a quadratic here because we've got a squared term and an x with a coefficient here, you have to factorise. So you always have to factorise if you've got more than one type of term, so if it's got a squared and an x. So to factorise, we always ask first, is there a highest common factor? If you're not sure of how to factorise, then I'd maybe watch some of the factorising videos. So is there a highest common factor? There isn't. Is it a difference of two squares? It's not, so here we've got a trinomial. And I meant to also say you can only solve it by factorising if it equals 0. If you have anything here, if say you had equals 4, you would have to bring that 4, take 4 off both sides so that it balanced out. You can only solve it once it equals 0. So we know it's a trinomial. I'm going to solve this the way I've done in my harder trinomials tutorial, so if you want to look back at that, you can. So we've got this multiply, add, multiply. We've got a coefficient in front of the x squared, so at the side I'm going to say we're multiplying to 2 times negative 15, which is negative 30, and we're adding to 7. So I'm going through the factors of 30. 30 and 1, so I'm going to work 2 and 15, no, 3 and 10. Yeah, 3 and 10 looks like it will work to get 7, so 3 and 10. We need a negative 30, so one of them will have to be negative. I'm trying to get to 7, so we're going to have to minus 3 and plus 10. So now I'm just going to write that back in here. You've got 2x squared. You break up that 7x into minus 3x plus 10x minus 15 equals 0. Then you look at each half of this and take out your highest common factor. Highest common factor here is just x. So then we've got in the bracket 2x minus 3. Whatever symbol we've got here, we write plus. Our highest common factor here is 5. Inside the bracket goes 2x minus 3. So if you weren't sure how to do that, you'll need to just watch the factorising videos. Our two brackets match, which is great. So then we're going to take this one, the x plus 5, as our first bracket, and the one that we've got doubled there, we've got 2x minus 3 equals 0. Once you've got to the point where you have two brackets, to solve the equation, you just take each bracket separately and make it equal to 0. So x plus 5 equals 0. 2x minus 3 equals 0. So taking 5 off both sides here, x equals negative 5. Adding 3 to both sides here, 2x equals 3. So then x equals 3 over 2. And those are your two solutions, and that is just some of the equations and inequations that you could have in your National 5 exam. So have a little look at some of the videos, or past paper questions, sorry now, to see if you can do them yourself.